Browny. What is the big question, Browny?
Dicko, what has happened to our great game in Bucks? And I'm alluding to the decisions by the AFL today, not just the MRO, because there's other people involved as well, but the AFL, to suspend Toby Bedford and Charlie Cameron. So, and we'll start with the Toby Bedford one of GWS. And it's just astonishing. I know where we're going as a game. We're trying to protect the head, and we've done an amazing job in the last, especially 5 to 10 years, of protecting the players out there. But what in the hell is Toby Bedford meant to do? We are allowed to tackle in our game. All he did was pursue Tim Taranto and tackle him in what has been a legal matter, a legal way for the best part of 100 years. So it's getting into troubling territory for me. And that's really concerning. I think we're now starting to eat into the fabric of the game. And yes, I feel bad for Tim Taranto, and with Tim Taranto, we don't want players to get injured. But we are starting to eat into the fabric of the game, Bucks.
Well, you had your fair share of head contact and head knocks as you went along your career. Playing devil's advocate, why do you feel that way? I'm of the same mind. I think that we're trying to legislate against incidental head contact, and we're not going to eliminate head contact out of the game. I mean, you are related to Liam Picken, who's obviously had issues from head trauma. How do you stand having that opinion about those tackles, but
well, absolutely, and unfortunately, that's going to be the collateral. It's a contact sport within the rules, and Liam has suffered, no question about that. An unbelievably courageous player, but he's one of the unlucky ones that suffered from it. So, and that's going to happen whilst we're playing a contact sport. We are now at the point where the AFL has done so much, even since Liam has retired.
Yeah, so
forced retirement in the last, 4 5 years maybe. Premiership player in 2016, that had his issues a few years ago. Done so much. We're now at the point where I liken to Formula One. They've made the cars so safe. To go any safer, they'd have to say to Max Verstappen, you know what, we're worried about a couple of corners, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a couple of speed cameras on those corners, and you can't go over a certain speed limit. You are eating into the fabric of the game, or in their case, the championship. So that is really where it is, and this is a crossroad moment. What was Toby Bedford meant to do in that scenario?
Well, I'm of the opinion that what are we trying to do with the players? Because Bucks, Browny, when you come in and you don't kick it that well, they try and change the mechanics, which you've been doing for probably 15, 16 years. And it takes a year to change your technique, maybe longer. We're asking players to change their techniques of tackling mid-season with all the complications and strategies and structures and everything. Too much to think about. Like, not disrespecting the players in terms of their intelligence and footy IQ, but to ask players mid-tackle to go release or drop an arm.
Oh, no, you know what I'm telling them? Adam Kingsley, Toby Bedford's a critically important player for him. He's doing a fantastic tagging role. I'm telling him, mate, don't pursue and don't tackle in that situation. I'd rather have you playing for us instead of missing for the next 3 weeks. Concussion crusaders, be careful. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. And if you start to liken them to, the community sport standards, all that, community sport, getting rid of king hits, getting rid of abusing umpire, respect for all those, these are not situations that are going to be good for community sport. If that was paid down at Koroit where my old man lives, there would be riots. I'd feel for the umpires. They were trying to leave the game if they started paying that as free kicks or players were getting suspended. So we are heading down the wrong path. We've done an amazing job. Don't get me wrong, and I want players to be safe, but I want our game to be our great game. And if we keep continuing on this path, I'm concerned.
If that filters down to grassroots level and junior football, the game will erode. It's just impossible to maintain what we're trying to ask these players to do right now. In terms of Toby Bedford right there, he had no other option, slippery conditions, tackle from behind, drop weight.
Well, you're the coach.
Well,
what do you instruct Toby Bedford to do?
He's got to tackle in that instance. We haven't even got to the Charlie Cameron one, which is a little different. You might even get more fired up. I'm interested to know what happens from here. I think both of the clubs are going to have something to say about that, and obviously Ralphie will let us know about that.
Yeah, well, let's head into the newsroom now. Ralphie, the Giants, they won't like the 3-week suspension. Will they appeal?
It took an instant for GWS to decide they are absolutely appealing tomorrow night. Still, I think the AFL was emphatic that this was a suspendable offence. And I think, look, as much as anything, there were absolutely those medico-legal aspects of it with trying to reduce concussion. But they felt the two factors with rough conduct, a player in a vulnerable position and excessive force in the tackle. And so from Michael Christian, Laura Kane to Stephen Mead. They felt pinning both of the arms put him in a high degree of vulnerability, and then they felt it was clearly excessive force because Taranto was concussed. They would say, how else do we decide excessive force? That is absolutely a concussion, and that's why he has been suspended. He certainly concussed his opponent, and I agree it was line ball. Browny, the only thing I would say about these concussion campaigners, well, Liam Picken has a lawsuit in the Supreme Court against the AFL. Brad Shepherd, last week, the West Coast player, put a lawsuit in the Supreme Court over concussions. We have 100 players lining up to try and sue the AFL with a class action. So it's not theoretical, it's not concussion campaigners. If we can't gradually change the face of the game, we have not got a game. This may well be overkill, but it's not just concussion campaigners. This is a real threat to the AFL.
And Ralphie, what we've got you there, Charlie Cameron also 3 weeks.
Well, Brisbane might have actually beaten GWS in terms of their appeal because that is on as well. That is on foot. They will appeal too. So their view is that if he is suspended, they absolutely will have to tell players there are ways in which you just cannot tackle. The only thing I would say with this one, and I know it's line ball, is that Cameron had other options than to dump Duggan on his back. He's unlucky because Duggan was concussed a month ago. So was he more susceptible to the concussion? We'll never know. But the AFL would say that he took 3, 4, 5 steps and then pushed him onto his back, and then that force occurred. And so that's what the AFL's testimony will be tomorrow. And of course, Brisbane, with their advocate, will try and get him off that charge.
It has got to the point where you can't win a contest by too much. It's like if you win a contest by too much, well, then you get into trouble. Yeah. So it's like, in the end, Duggan was trying to fight that tackle and put himself off balance, which actually ended up both of them going. And that's what I'm sure that we will hear that when it goes to the tribunal. And both of these clubs will argue the cases that you're talking about.
His momentum was already going backwards when Charlie commenced the tackle. So what does Charlie do in that scenario? So he's going backwards, obviously, initial hit, and then he starts to go backwards. But in that scenario, all Charlie can do is maybe turn him, so Charlie's on his back first. He wouldn't have got him round. He would end up slamming Duggan into the side of his head, into the temple side, as opposed to the back of the head.
Then we're asking him to do 3 actions in one.
Well, that's right.
And that's impossible.
Well, he's not Hulk Hogan. You know, he's the same size as Duggan. You've got to remember, these players are tremendously, extremely strong, powerful out there. So Duggan's not just going to be a tackling dummy out there and you can twist him and turn him like you would at under 14s training.
It's been going for 18 months. We see a lot less of players hit their head now in tackle situations than we did last year. It's already coming the right way. I don't think either of those players took any released their duty of care or lowered their duty of care to the opposition by sticking the tackles that they stuck.